Been a couple weeks since I've done any video with these lights because it is taking forever to get the paint off of this stuff, but we're getting there. These are the last items that need the paint off. The little socket holders here, the socket and the lamp holders and the starter and all that. This little bracket that goes onto the fixture adapter, it still needs a little bit more taken off of it, as you can see, but things such as the Circline light here have cleaned up really well. And I'm almost tempted to just leave this aluminum. This is incredibly light. It has to be aluminum. It is just too light to be anything else. And you can actually see on it, like, the labeling from when it was originally, a flat piece of metal. Very interesting. And it looks like it was just, rounded out on a lathe or something to make the shape because of all the lines in it. But yeah, both halves turned out really well. And the inside, I just left original because why not? You're not going to see it. So I didn't do anything there. And that is ready. But I was ready to put that together. I was like, great, we could put one together, but there's still some paint on these things I want to get off. So we'll give it a little bit of time. But as you may notice, I'm using a different I'm using the real stuff this time. The orange citrus stuff worked well, actually. It actually worked about the same as this. I thought this would be stronger, being actual paint stripper, but no. It worked equally as well as the orange stuff. I still have some of the orange stuff. So this paint remover works, they both work about the same, really. There's the piece of plastic I was using for the other one. But anyway, yeah, the other pieces that are currently drying somewhere else outside, they're all done too. So next step is clean these things up. I got some of that paint thinner cleanup stuff. We'll clean it all up. I'm wondering if there's a way I can polish this. That would be pretty cool. And let it be aluminum, as I've already said. Cleaned up some of this a little bit, just to dusted it off. It's not perfect, as you can see. I don't want to ruin much of what it is, because it's all old and unique. But anyway, that's where we're currently sitting. So hopefully the next clip will be reassembling one of these. Our little pieces here cleaned up fine. Same with the socket. We have a little residue left over there, so we'll have to clean that off from the paint stripper. But we got it all cleaned up. And everything's off of the two pieces here, except for these three little specks. But you know what? I'm just going to leave them there. You're never going to see them. It's on the top. And it's a little bit of a reminder as to what color it was. I mean, if you really want to see what color it was, you can just flip it over. It's kind of an antique white, I suppose you could say. Ivory color. Anyway, I have some of this polish here I used for some chrome lights a while back. We'll see how well that works with the aluminum here. It is listed on there. Maybe it'll clean up this weird artifacting or whatever's going on there a little bit. Who knows? If it stays the way it is, that's fine too. But maybe we can get one of these put together today. Well, after using the polish, it obviously didn't polish a darn thing, and I should have known that from the beginning because it is slightly abrasive. So it's not necessarily going to really polish it in this particular circumstance. It just made it more dull, as you can see. So that's a little bit of a bummer. Should have known, didn't think that far, whatever, let's move on. So anyway, cleaned it off of there. Yes, maybe I'll go over it again a little bit different, just to get a little more of it evened out than the way it is. That might be a good idea. And then once that's evened out and cleaned up a little better than just streaks I have everywhere, we'll start getting these pieces back on. I'm also thinking not putting the ballast where it originally was, because that's a lot of weight on the one side, and you just have these two holes here holding it. So it's obviously going to want to tip one way. And if we take the ballast and put it a little more towards the center here, as close as we can anyway, that should even out the weight a little bit more, because it's obviously really light over here. We just have this heavy ballast. But we obviously need to have this hole open in the middle. So we'll try to get it as close as we can within reason of drilling holes and being able to put the pipe through here. And that should help balance out the weight of it a little bit. So yeah, I really should do a little bit more polishing with this to get rid of these awful marks that I made on it. I don't know why. I thought it would work. Shouldn't have done it. It does say aluminum. Maybe not this type of aluminum, but we'll see what we can get out of it here, I suppose. The ballast and starter socket is mounted. Got some new holes made for the ballast here to bring it a little closer to the middle. And the starter socket got the same nuts and bolts on that. Use some new ones for the ballast here. Nice and well, it's not rusty, so that's good. And well, that is our ballast. Now we just got to get the lamp holders and whatnot installed on the top half. There they are, looking nice. They cleaned up pretty well, and they all have the spring. Well, I guess this one doesn't. The other two that don't have the socket are spring loaded, but I'm real happy with it. It looks nice. It looks like a UFO. But anyway, if we open that up, there's the original color. Everything's in place and tightened. And of course the inside's there. We still need to wire it up. Haven't done that yet because we went out and did shopping and whatnot yesterday. Anyway, in doing so, in the meantime, I cleaned and spray painted the top half here white. It's just because I have white paint. Looks like there's already a speck of something on there. We'll just wipe that off. But this, of course, goes on the other side, and it's an adapter. It adapts to a globe fixture on your ceiling. Now, a lot of the globe fixtures that you can get nowadays are, I think, like 3 1/4 inch or something, or 3 1/2 inch or something like that. But this is made for the vintage style, which is a 4-inch fitting. And it's, for whatever reason, incredibly hard to find these 4-inch fittings. You can find them on Amazon. I had some in the cart for a while, and then they went out of stock, and they were white. They would have matched this very well. But I thought, you know, McClendon's, a hardware store here in the Seattle area, always has a variety of things, and I thought, hey, I can stop by there and maybe they will have a 4-inch fitting. Well, sure enough, they did. Now, it's not white, it's brass, but I asked them and looked on their website. It's the only 4-inch fitting they carry is a brass one, and it's the only 4-inch fitting that this particular brand even makes. So I'm not complaining. I thought about painting it, but I think I'm just going to leave it brass. The end cons that I have installed have brass on them, so whatever, we'll just let it be. If I paint it, I don't want it to look ridiculous, and this is fine. Now, the next thing is, we have our 4-inch fitting. This is great. This fits right over it. As you can see, that'll fit right in there. But the next problem is, look at how far out this socket sticks. It makes sense. You'd have a big globe on it, so it doesn't matter how far down the socket is. A 4-inch fitting like this would have a big globe, so it doesn't need to be recessed or anything. And of course, they would have put a screw-in socket and used a cord like this and plugged right into it. Well, if you do that, then this isn't going to fit over it anymore. I mean, even with the plastic here, there's barely any room in there. So I have to come up with another idea to, well, connect this thing up. So, well, this is for another project we'll discuss here in a second. I decided to pick up a plug, both male and female ends. So I'm going to take the socket out, and I'm going to put in a regular plug like this onto a wire, and that will be our plug, of course, and then this will go on the other side for the fixture, and then of course the two of them will plug in together, and that will fit within here, hopefully, once they are plugged together. Let me see here. We're going to try to do it with one hand. Now, they had different colors, but for whatever reason, the white ones were cheaper. So, anyway, these will fit in here and then go together, and I think that'll work fine. That way it can use the mount. I can't mount it without this because this rod goes through the middle, and it's important that that's there. It's how the fixture is held together. So it's this one, it's important to have it. The other two 20-watt fluorescent fittings, they could be mounted flush. I haven't decided what I want to do there yet, if I want to get some more of these. But also, interestingly enough, this one from McClendon's was much cheaper than the one on Amazon. Now, the ones that I was looking at, that is, they did have this particular brand with this when I looked specifically for it for a couple dollars cheaper, but it was like $3, and I want it now, and so here it is. Now, moving on to what this box is here, look at this. It's a brand new F20 T12 preheat fluorescent ballast. I was surprised to see that they still had this on the shelf. It looks like it was made, I'm guessing, the 40th week of 2017. So it's definitely not the newest thing, but I wonder if they can still get them. I'll keep tabs on it the next time I go there, which is not too often, and see if they have 3 on the shelf. They had 3 on the shelf when I was there. I just bought 1. It wasn't exactly the cheapest thing. This was $12 for the ballast, but you know, it's getting so hard to find things like this, especially brand new. I didn't think that was too bad of a deal. Excuse me, so I ended up picking it up. The other thing that I was more surprised about to find was a starter socket with the clip-in sides. Now, I have a whole bag of these with the little screw-in ends I got online a long time ago for really cheap, but I want one of these with the clip-in ends. Well, why is that? I have a fixture idea for it. As we may have previously discussed, I have this 22-watt Circline fixture here, and it has a rapid start ballast in it, but it does have the capacity to be preheat. If we turn it over here, you can see it has a starter socket knockout right there. And all you need is the clip-in starter socket, which is a style it takes. Now, I suppose I could just put a regular one in there and drill some holes and mount it. I guess I could have done that, but this is the one that it's looking for. Now, this was about $7. Expensive to me, but a piece that you don't find much anymore. I could have parted out a fixture, but the fixture that has this that I would have parted out, I didn't really want to. So here it is. And you can tell it's been there a minute. It's a little dirty, but they had some newer ones in the box or bin as well. So they obviously can still get them, and I'm sure you can still find starter sockets online too. But I'd like to convert this to preheat. That's what the ballast is for. Now, if we look closely at the ballast, we see it says straight tube only. It doesn't do Circline tubes. Well, I also have this F20 T12 preheat fluorescent fixture I picked up at a ReStore out in Port Townsend for $1. So, why not just see what kind of ballast we have in here? I mean, it was $1. I thought, hey, you know, I could just part it out, but it's preheat. You know, you don't see preheat that often anymore, so I don't really want to part it out. I can use this. I have plenty of bulbs for it. And here's the inside of this fixture. So let's see what it says. If we can even read that. Well, it doesn't want to focus on it, but it looks like it also says straight lamp only. I don't know. Okay, it's really not that different, but if I don't have another one, I'll just use this ballast in here anyway. However, I have a container of ballasts here, so maybe there's one in there. I kind of doubt it. I don't think I have one of this rating. But either way, there's that fixture. Just pick this up and move it somewhere else. And we'll just use this one anyway. It's not that big of a difference, and I'm sure they just modified something very slightly. So we'll use this one in this fixture. If I ever find a more appropriate one, we'll put it in here. But for now, I think this will work just fine. And, ooh, yeah, let's throw it at the ground. You know, that's a good idea. I think it'll need some different mounting holes too, but we'll deal with that when we get there. So, for right now, we'll continue on with one of these projects. The fixture is all wired up now, and to be honest with you, I already tried it, and it didn't work. I was real saddened. Well, I took the multimeter out and just took a look at what was going on. Everything seemed to be perfectly fine. But what ended up being the problem was their labeling here. It says to one side of socket and line, and to other side of line. Well, to other side of line, I would think that would be the main input, you know, and to other side of socket and line, usually, at least in my remembering, that's the neutral. Well, they got a black wire coming out of where I just think the neutral would have been, and a white wire coming out of what I would assume the positive would be. And I wired it up with the black being the positive and the white being the negative, because that's how it was originally wired, and that would make sense. The black is the positive, the white is the negative. But it turns out that is incorrect. The white is your positive and the black is the negative. The labeling on the ballast here is correct, and the wire's color, anyway, is wrong. And sure enough, then it worked absolutely fine. I don't know why. I was just following the color code of the wires. Maybe that didn't really matter back then. Now these wires that come out of the ballast are incredibly fragile. They're like some type of paste, paper, something. I really don't like these wires. They tend to crack and break over time and get really brittle. Right now they're very stiff and they don't like to be molded in a different way. So I'm being real careful with bending them by the ballast here. The housing, that is, because if you bend them too much, you will end up exposing the wires that come out, and they might touch the metal here, and of course then the whole thing's electrified, and you don't want that. Same with this over here. Now, I put some electrical tape right here because there's kind of a bend right there in the wire, but it's not necessarily broken. There's just a bend there, but it feels like it's broken, the covering, that is. So I just put it there out of caution. And the rest of the wires here, I'm not playing with it where they go in because they're definitely very fragile in that regard. And it doesn't shock you when you touch it. So we're good there. Just a very old ballast. Unfortunately, there's no date code on it, at least that I could see. But of course, we got the ballast, the starter socket, the GE sockets here. So now we have it all wired up to our plug on the other side, which I put some electrical tape around. I guess you can't see it there, but I have electrical tape around it here, and that's not because the wire's broken. It's just to protect it going through that hole. I tried to round it off and make it not so it won't puncture the wire, but I just put some electrical tape on it just to be safe about it. And the other side here is our plug, which will be up in this housing so we can plug it in. So I suppose the next part will be taking this apart and putting this together because we do have our little rod here that we can use to marry the two and finally make our flying saucer. With this fixture being an adapter, we have a regular plug here on this side, which you would screw an adapter into your light socket here and then plug the fixture directly into that. But, of course, we're using this up in there because there wasn't enough space for the actual socket. So the socket's actually removed in this installation. But that's how the fixture would have been wired up. It would have just plugged right into the socket up there and adapted the fixture from incandescent to fluorescent. Here's our finished product. Looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. Of course, we still have some little blemishes here, you know, from the original paint falling off and just being weathered over time, I assume. But the sockets are looking nice. And we got our plug here in the bottom, our original starter. We can set it upside down like this. We got our plug, and I did put a zip tie here. Usually be on the inside so you don't pull it out, but when you plug it in, it wants to push back in, and I don't want it to do that because I want this electrical tape to be there to make sure it doesn't get cut or anything. And that's looking pretty good. I think that can come right off. There we go. Very nice. It's starting to come together. Okay, now we'll turn our attention to the socket. Well, this is where I think we can put the Circline adapter fixture. It's up high enough here, and it's definitely it won't be in the way when you're coming down the stairs, and that's what matters. It is off-centered. I don't know why they put the electrical box like that. I'm sure it's just however the joists lined up. So we got to get this fixture down, of course, so we can put up our new one. There's our old fixture. And there's the box. Yet again, another one of these plastic things. Got the new plug light wired up here, all done real nice, and even got the ground connected way up in there, so that's even better. Makes me feel better about the whole situation. So anyway, we got to get this on here, and then we'll be able to get the fixture installed. There we go. Okay, let's see here. We need to plug this into here, which I think is easier said than done because you gotta have two hands for this and you only have one. There you go. Okay, so we got that plugged in all the way. And now, let's see, how does this want to sit in here? Something like that, I guess. Where do we have that socket? Then we'll tighten up these screws around here as if we were putting on a globe on the fixture. Make sure they're nice and tight. And there we go. There's our Circline adapter. I think the starter's over here. Yep. Now we need a bulb. So we got our bulb here. And we have our pins that'll go into this socket. So if we get it started on those, should be able to just pull it over, get it set right in there, give it a nice home. There we go. Now this bulb's a little wonky. It's not a perfect circle. This side's a little higher, this side's a little lower. Quality control. So there it is. Let's go ahead, and it's on a dimmer currently. I had a dimmer on this. I think it's up all the way, so let's turn it on. Can you say blink happy? Oh, that is so cool. Oh, I love that there. Oh, that is awesome. And of course, the AC has to kick on right when we're doing this. Oh, that is so cool. Now I got to see it from your guys' angle with the camera because I'm only looking at it down here. How does it look from there? Oh, yeah. That's awesome. Let's see here. Let's get it back to 1. There we go. And why not? Let's do a wide angle version here. See. Oh yeah, that looks real cool right there. Oh yeah, look at that thing. Oh yes. Okay, I think some things that I want to do is the starter. I'm sure it's an old neon starter. I want to put some holes in the canister of it so that we can see the neon as it's turning on. But as it sits right now, what a contraption. How cool is that? Now we just need to replace the dimmer switch with a regular switch again. Switch has been replaced. It's very vocal. And also replace the switch right here for this one so that when we go ahead and replace it, we don't have to worry about the dimmer. So now it's time to turn our attention to the 22-watt Circline fixture here that'll go in the little hallway by the bathroom. And it definitely needs a little cleanup here. The chrome is a little smudged and whatnot, so we'll see if we can get that cleaned up with that chrome polish. Hopefully it works better than it did on that aluminum. Now I was concerned originally that we might need to make some new holes for the preheat ballast, but the holes are already here. You can see them. They just didn't use them. Same thing with the starter socket. All we gotta do is knock that out, put our new starter socket in, a wonderful starter. Maybe we'll find one of these green ones. That'll look pretty cool. And well, yeah. So what I'm gonna do first is get this ballast out of here, and I'm gonna cut this probably in the middle so we have enough to reuse the ballast if we ever want to in the future, and our plug to marry with this ballast here, of course. And then we'll give this a nice little polish, and hopefully that'll clean it up a little bit. Oh yeah, chrome polish worked well on this thing. Now it's an absolute fingerprint magnet, but we'll clean that up once we finally get up there, because you know it's going to have about 1 million fingerprints by the time it finally gets installed. But I tell you what, it certainly worked out a lot better than that dude using it on the aluminum. This is 1,000 times better than it was. So now let's do the fun part and wire it up. All wired up. Got our new ballast, new starter socket, reused the socket here for the lamp, and now we just need to mount it on the ceiling. This one's interesting. It's in a very tight spot, and judging by the paint around it, I wonder if we're going to find old paint underneath. Sure enough, there's a different color underneath the old light fixture. I already got the new bracket up there, but it looks like it's the same color as the wall, so maybe they just painted the ceiling white to give it a different look or feel. I don't know. Either way, we're just going to let it be for right now. Someday I'll paint around it more appropriately. But it's not that big of a difference when you're just kind of sitting here looking at it. So let's go ahead and get our new Circline fixture up. There we go. It's in its new home. Now we just need to get the connectors on there and find a bulb and a starter, of course. There we go. And I found one of the cool green Leviton starters. So now all we have left to do is turn it on. Well, here we go. Awesome. It is cool white. I'm sure I have a warm white bulb somewhere, but this is perfectly fine. I don't need anything super perfect for this little area. I do like that starter action though. Very easy to see. Awesome. I'm so happy with this. One more time. Okay, then of course we have its friend here. Oh yeah, that's preheat action, if you ask me. Let's see if we can get both of them in one picture. There we go. It's definitely been a minute since we've taken a look at a Windows PC here on the channel, and I found another one at the local thrift store. So, what is this one? Well, as you can see, it's a Lenovo. It looks to be a small form factor business class PC, which are my favorite because, well, they're just so much more compact and take up a lot less space when you're collecting these ridiculous things. But here it is, a Lenovo offering. I have some Dells and some HPs, but like I said, a Lenovo. So we have the side panel here. Looks to be in pretty good shape. Overall, this computer's in really good shape. On the back of it here, we have our power supply. We have our serial VGA, and then I noticed, hey, we have DisplayPort. I was looking for something more modern on it because there's not many stickers on the front. You'll see that here in a second. But we have DisplayPort, so that's somewhat modern. And then I didn't think of it until I got home, but it has USB 3 on it there with the blue ports. That's also a nice addition. Of course, 2.0 and some type of Ethernet audio jacks, and nothing down here. However, I find it interesting that there's some of these little tabs sticking out here. I'm guessing that's on purpose. Not entirely sure. So that's the back of the machine. Let's take a look at the front. Picked this up for $11. Think Center. We have smaller versions of these at work. The ultra small form factors that are about the size of a Mac Mini. We have a couple of those at work. Just USB 2.0 on the front. We have a Windows sticker here. It looks to be kind of a purpley color, so I'm assuming when it was new, it probably had Windows 8 on it. But that's kind of a purpley blue, so I would think maybe Windows 10. But I don't know if that would have been on this just yet. We'll have to look at some dates here in a minute. And we have the fan inside there. Come around the side. And, well, there's some feet if you have it mounted in or laying down in this direction. And, of course, our sticker here, Think Center M78. Let's see, do you see a date on there? You've probably seen it already. Date 13/12. So 2013 or 2012, one of the two, I'm guessing. So let's lay it down and see what's inside. Now, when I first saw this on the shelf at the thrift store, of course I saw the front of it, I'm like, oh cool, another small form factor PC, awesome. And then I was like, how in the world do I open this thing? Well, obviously we have this little thing here to push. It has an unlock symbol on it. So I'm like, okay, if we unlock it, does it slide back, you know, like an HP or something? No. Of course it has to be different. You push this to the side and it swings up, more like an old Dell clamshell style case. There, I got it started. And it's a pretty stiff hinge, as you can see here. Yep, like an old Dell clamshell case, except all the components are where you'd expect them to be. But here, you can see it pushes this over, which moves these latches here at the top, or the front. Very interesting design. We have our hard drive holder right here, which was installed upside down and backwards when I found it at the thrift store. Figured out how to put it in the right way, so here it is. All the wires are still there. We have our full-size DVD CD drive. We have 2 sticks of RAM in there. As far as I can tell, they're DDR3, 4 gigabytes apiece, so 8 gigs altogether. Our cooling fan with this interesting little shroud on it here to suck in air right from the front and not take in any air from the back here, which I'm sure it pushes it out that way. Of course, our power supply. Let's get this thing turned around here so it's more at a correct angle. Do we have anything on this? Oh, 2013 is the date on this one. No sign of what processor is in this thing. I did some quick Googling, and as far as I can tell, it might be an AMD system. Usually these things are Intel of some sort, but we won't know until we turn it on. Again, there's no stickers here on the front that say what kind of processor it has. It just says Windows. So whatever to that. Looks like we could put in some type of low profile GPU, but it never had one. The other thing I find interesting here is, look, there's an internal display port. What in the world is that? The only thing I can think of is that they have a knockout here on the back. Right there in the middle of your screen, that's the same size as a DVI, or display port, I should say. And I wonder if this just loops to that or something. You could have a little adapter kit that would make an extra port, so you could have dual monitor display port. Very interesting. I'm sure you could just run a wire through the back here and it would do the same thing. Yeah, it's an interesting case. And notice, it's not really that dirty either. We have a little bit of dust here and there. And it doesn't stink like it was in somebody's smoke-filled home either. It has a clean smell to it. Believe it or not, a clean smell. Not too bad. We take the hard drive caddy out here, which looks like somebody tried to take the hard drive out and broke half of the clips, but that's okay. It's probably going to get an SSD of some flavor here anyway in a minute. Front case fan and a little speaker. That's always a nice addition, especially for a business class PC when you might need to just have some little video and you need to at least hear it. And of course we have our drive here. If we push this in, it swings up. Of course, SATA. We can get to the RAM slots here. Is there a date on this? 2013 I see there. I'm sure it's also some type of light on product, being that that's what the power supply is. Some little CPU there. I'm gonna assume because of the pattern for the holes, it must be AMD. I could be totally wrong though. But yeah, an interesting, an AMD business class machine. On the front I/O there, again, not very dirty. Very surprised with this one. Very pleased. Of course, it'll need a little bit of a vacuuming, as you can see, but not too bad. Okay, so that's a quick look around of the machine here. Let's just pop it back together. I always like these toolless designs in the business class world. That's why I like these business class machines. I like these feet on it. Closes right up. Just has one scratch here. It's in really good shape. I'm very surprised. Okay, so I'm going to vacuum it out a little bit, and we'll get it hooked up to a monitor, keyboard, mouse, and we'll see what's, well, inside. Brought this out to the garage here to vacuum, and I just realized as I was carrying it out here, it felt like a sticker was here. Well, yeah, this has been stickered up. Look, it has stickers all over the side panels and stuff, probably trying to cover up damage. I wonder if this was a refurbished computer that went for sale online, and, well, they did this refurbishing treatment where they put these giant stickers on it. I guess it would explain why the Lenovo logo is like that. How weird. And I'm sure if you tried to take it off, it's probably full of residue underneath. So that's the first time I've gotten my hands on one of these where they've done such a thing. Again, you know, probably just refurbishing. They do that to, well, make it look cleaner for the next user, but I'd almost prefer them not to, really, because, look, you line it up wrong and it looks terrible. And I mean, they don't have any on the bottom here, and the bottom looks fine, so why did you even do this? And it does come right off. I mean, it doesn't leave any residue behind, and that looks so much better than this stupid sticker. Like, what in the world is going on here? Look, it's not even that, it doesn't even look bad. I mean, come on. This looks worse with it on there, so I'm just going to get rid of this. Look at that, like just one scratch. Why even take the time to cover this up? It really had to have been some type of refurbished machine. Let's see, there's a sticker underneath here. Yeah, look at that, you even covered up whatever that is, probably the serial number. We got the PC, matching Lenovo keyboard, not matching mouse, and our good old Dell monitor here. So I plugged it in. The first thing it did is the fan ramped up really high, and then, well, it turned off. Naturally, it probably took a second for it to say, hey, I'm supposed to be off. Anyway, let's see what we get. It's real quiet. Don't have anything on the display yet. Oh, there we go, Lenovo. Sure, it will find nothing, naturally. There isn't anything there. Yep, no operating system. Let's see. Did it say what we could press for, like, a BIOS? I guess I'll figure that out here in a second. Something's got to get us in there. Okay, so apparently F1 gets you into the BIOS here. Had to Google that one real quick. Oh, look at that. We have a mouse. I just went over to grab it because I saw the mouse cursor. Of all things, we have a mouse. Can we click on stuff? Sure enough, that is different to see on such an old-looking BIOS. Anyway, it thinks it's 2017, and when it first turns on, it says it's 2012. That must be the BIOS date itself. The date and time. Oh, okay, so that's a system date of 20... Yeah, okay, so that's right. The time itself, that might also be right. Interesting, so it's at least remembering that. Oh, the BIOS date is 2017. Oh, excuse me. Something else on the main screen said 2012, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so it has new enough battery in it that it at least knows stuff. That's just the main. Doesn't really say anything. We got a serial number, language, devices. It's interesting here on the main, there's... Okay, here we go. Oh, it is an AMD. Interesting. AMD A4 5300B APU with Radeon HD graphics. 3.4 gigahertz. 8 gigs of RAM. Interesting. Okay. 2-core, dual core. No surprise, I suppose. Cheap 256 gig SSD installed. And, well, one of these I think has Windows 10 on it. Since it says Windows on it, I guess that's what it wants. So, let's go ahead and see what one of these drives actually has that on it. Looks like it was the red one. It's just another boring Windows 10 install. And there's Windows 10. That wasn't very eventful. It went absolutely fine. We got our 2 cores or threads or whatever showing up here. It says 1 core, 2... cores 1, logic processors 2, I don't know. Anyway, we have 2 threads of execution, whatever it is. We do have the 8 gigs of RAM showing up, and when I go and look at the driver for the display, naturally it's just the basic Microsoft one, because we don't have internet connected to this, so I couldn't find drivers for the built-in graphics on here. But it shows that there's 0 megabytes of video memory. Of course, it probably shares it with the memory on the computer itself being integrated. But anyway, yeah, there it is. It shows up, it works fine, it's super quiet, and I think for the moment, that's where I'm going to leave it. If I need it for something, I'll revisit it, but for the moment, hey, it's functional.